Elevation Nation. Tonight we have a special treat. Not only do we have field hockey royalty in the building with us, but Parker and I are also together in person, which makes this podcast even more special. We have Phia Gladieux on with us. She is a field hockey truly legend. I could go on and on, Phia, about your accomplishments, but I think that might take up the whole podcast because you have been absolutely incredible, a trailblazer in your sport, and we will talk about all your accomplishments in athletics. But I think one of the reasons why you and I hit it off and why we knew you were an elevator in Elevation Nation was your openness about mindset and mental health. And so we're excited to dig into that as someone who so many young athletes look up to. We really commend you for being so open with your struggles. It's something Parker and I have tried to build here at Elevation Nation, and we believe more young people should be talking about the realities that it takes to get to the top and how sometimes it's not always pretty. So, Phia, welcome to Elevation Nation. We are hyped to have you.
I'm super excited to be here. I love talking about these things, and I think it's super beneficial, so it should be fun.
It's going to be an elevated conversation. And, I mean, Phia, we just met, but I know we've been texting for it seems like almost a year now, right?
Probably at this point, yeah.
I mean, you were getting ready to travel overseas for a pretty important thing in your life. So, we had to pause. Maybe we can't do it during this time. Obviously, during the summer, we were not top of mind for you. But now we're here. We get to reflect on that entire experience. But first, for our guests, for our audience, let's dive a little bit more into who you are. We always ask our new elevators an elevator pitch, so you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, wow, where do I even start? Obviously, I play field hockey. I've played field hockey since I was in third grade, so a long, long time. And I am actually graduating college next weekend, which is pretty crazy. I just finished my 5th season here at Penn State University. I got a COVID year, which really worked out perfectly for everything that happened in the last year for me. I'm an early childhood education major, so I plan on being a teacher in the future, elementary ed. So that's been a great experience aside from field hockey as well. I joined the women's national field hockey team in the last year, got selected for the Paris Olympics, got to go play there, scored a goal, which was such a cool experience, met so many cool people, so many athletes that I've looked up to my whole entire life, which was just so inspiring and surreal. Now I'm getting ready to kind of close the chapter of Penn State and move back down to Charlotte to continue training and hopefully find, a job as well as playing. And just kind of be able to balance out that lifestyle of being an athlete, but also knowing that there is life after sports. And that's kind of my plan right now, but it's pretty crazy. It's all happened so quickly, and it's stressful to think about, but super exciting.
I mean, again, I said at the beginning, we could go on and on about all your accomplishments. You've certainly done so much, and we are very proud of you for all that you've accomplished, but you're at an interesting crossroads. And I'll tell you a little bit more about where Elevation Nation started, which was when we were your age, about to graduate from college, had our new jobs, moved to new cities, and we're trying to figure out life as young adults. And so I think it's going to be interesting, Phia, as we dive into this conversation, because you are exactly where we were when we were really struggling. And not to scare you, but I'm sure you're probably feeling some of these mixed emotions, right? You've worked your entire life, you reached the pinnacle of a career, and you're still going to do more, of course, but it's now, okay, I got to pivot. I'm not going to be in Happy Valley in Penn State anymore. I'm going to go down to Charlotte. I'm going to look for a job. I'm going to figure out what this new adult chapter of Phia is. And so I'm curious, not to put you on the spot to get too vulnerable, but how are you feeling with all that? I know it can be stressful.
Yeah, no, I actually just spoke at our county, from my high school, my county banquet. I was a guest speaker there and for their award ceremony. And I talked a lot about that and just how, like you said, I did reach a pinnacle and it did feel like I peaked. Obviously, I achieved a lifelong dream of competing at the Olympics at the age of 22, which not a lot of people get to say they do. And although it was absolutely one of the best experiences of my life, obviously, it is scary to think, okay, now what? I did what I've been wanting to do my whole life. I reached that final stage, and it's just like it's scary to think about. And I think for me, just I allowed myself to stay so present during the whole process and not, overthink it all, because when you're there, it's just the game is so much bigger than you are. And so I think just allowing myself to stay present and like understanding at the end of the day, it's just a field hockey game. It's what I've been doing my whole life. And like I told the girls when I was speaking, there's so much more to my life and to me than being an Olympian. Like it is a great asset and it was a great experience. It's going to help me in so many other aspects. But I think there is so much more to my life than that. Like I want to be a teacher. I want to lead the next generation of students or student athletes, like whatever it is. Like I want to put my purpose of like what I've been doing and how I've been growing and put it into something else other than just performing as a high level athlete. So I think I'm proud of myself for being able to think about these things at a time where a lot of people panic and freak out. Because yes, to answer your other question, I have been obviously a little bit panicked. It's scary, but I think I also understand that everything does come to an end. Unfortunately, college does end, and I knew it, and I knew that, so I was mentally prepared. So now that it's over, I'm ready to move on. Like I'm ready to leave college and like go do the next thing that I'm supposed to do in my life, and whatever that is. So yeah, it's definitely really scary, but I definitely am proud of myself for how I've prepared myself, and just everything that's kind of happened recently. It just shows me how quick things can change and your whole life can change within the matter of literally one text, one phone call. So wow. Yeah, that's kind of my mindset on that.
Are you going to like take some time off to like, I mean, you just finished your season, right?
Yeah. So we finished early November. So
okay.
Yeah. So I obviously last year was a senior, played senior season, had some time off, got invited to go down, and then was training from full-time March all the way to August, and then came
wow.
Yeah, I got like a
with the team, or like you were trying out? Like how does that typically work?
So I was like officially on the women's national team, but then there was a roster, obviously selection for the Olympic roster. So like there was a process. So, but I was fully training with them. Like we trained 5-6 times a week. So that was all the way up in Charlotte. So I unenrolled last
Works
semester.
Out perfectly.
Yeah. So I was down there for that, and then unenrolled at Penn State, and then did that with the chance of making the Olympics. I didn't even know. And then it was a gamble, and then I got selected, and then came right back here. I got a few days off before preseason, came back here, finished my student teaching, and then after my season ended, I literally did nothing for like 4 weeks. Like I didn't even pick up a stick or work out. My body, like I was told, like you need to chill, obviously. So I've just the last 2 weeks I finally started like working out again, and so I'll have some time off Christmas, but I'm still like working out, but then I'll go back down. So yeah.
So something that's so interesting, and Sam always brings it up, we've interviewed other Olympians, we've interviewed very highly motivated entrepreneurs, and we always come to this concept is like, as an elevator, we always want more. And it's kind of an amazing thing, but it also is a flaw in a sense, because it's like we hit this big goal. Like even today, Sam and I hit a massive goal with Elevation Nation. I bet you we're going to go to bed happy, and tomorrow we're going to wake up. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And so I think where you're at right now is really interesting, because you're about to graduate and you're definitely going to feel the next thing. But I think I'm really curious to hear about what your mindset is. Once you walk across that stage, what is that next thing going to be for you? Like, where do you want to spend your time, focus your energy, and all that?
Yeah. Well, I'm graduating, but I'm not actually going to mine. Well, I'm going to do a celebration, but besides the point, that's irrelevant. I think for me, like the biggest thing, I get to be home during Christmas and just relax mentally. Like obviously physically still going to be training and preparing to go down to Charlotte to be with the team full time again, but I think just like taking it really one day at a time, because and I'm sure so many other people can relate, thinking ahead, it just creates a snowball of stress, and I physically can't handle that. So I think my mindset is just taking things day by day and trying to stay as present as possible, because the second I start to think about things in the future, I get anxious, and like being anxious is obviously not fun, and it causes a lot of negative, a negative mindset. And so I think that's the biggest thing I've realized. So enjoying my time at home, and then once, that's up, just kind of mentally preparing, okay, like I'm going down here, I'm going to be, living on my own essentially again, and just kind of getting to that mindset of I'm going to be training as an Olympic athlete again, like at that different level than in college. So, but yeah, day by day, week by week, I think is my biggest thing and biggest tip, because it's been so helpful for me. And we have a lot of fun traveling coming up. So going to New Zealand in January, going to Chile in February. So traveling stresses me out. So I'm excited for it, but I'm also stressed. So trying to, I know it's there, I know it's coming, but just not.
That's incredible, though.
It's a mixed bag with travel. I get it.
Yeah.
And I think, Phia, you hit on a couple things around mental health a bit, right? Like knowing your own limits, knowing what stresses you out and causes you anxiety. And I think, one of the things that we wanted to touch on is you've been really open with some of the anxiety and mental health that you've felt. And with Parker and our story, that's been one of the things that we've been trying to bring to the forefront, is specifically in young men that think they don't need to talk about their mental health or stress about it, or that they push it down and bottle it up. And so that's been one of our biggest goals with Elevation Nation, is not only to help young people with their careers or mindset or entrepreneurship, but also being open with their mental health and what they've been struggling with. And so I was hoping we could touch a little bit on some of the anxiety that you felt from a young age. And it sounds like now, I mean, we all know anxiety doesn't just go away, but we learn ways to cope and manage and deal and know ourselves. So I'd love to chat a little bit about how far you've come.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you bringing up about, younger men that deal with anxiety, because I have a family member who is younger, and he's suppressed his feelings for his whole life, and I think it's really affecting him now. And he was able to, come to us and talk about it, and it's so sad to see the social construct around men and emotions. And we all know that it's like, realistically, men to cry or men to be emotional is taboo in a way. And so I think that causes so many men to struggle later in their lives, and like we see that in the statistics. So I just appreciate that you brought that up, because I've seen it firsthand and experienced it with a family member that I love so much, and it's so sad to witness, but I'm also so glad that he's able to get the help that he needs. And but like, again, I've experienced it my whole life since I was 11 or 10. And it wasn't just like, well, at the time I had no idea. I was like, what is this? I remember crying to my dad, because it was my first sleepaway camp. I got selected for a national team camp, U17. I had just turned 11, so I was first time staying away from,
Wow.
Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
just, not only was it a fun, oh, you're going in the woods with your friends, no, you're going to train with the best U17 girls in the country. So it was terrifying. I was terrified. I remember having this feeling. It was so out of body, and I was like, this is not the normal nerves. This is not normal. And I literally felt I'm sure you guys know the feeling, you're going to die. It literally is just, at such a young age, you don't know what you're dealing with or how to calm down. So like you said, you think it goes away. So it does. Eventually it subsides. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then it just, every time something would come up that I would get, triggered by something, that feeling would come up again. And it was a snowball. And it just got to the point, it was so bad. I remember I literally thought I was going to quit field hockey. My family did not think I was going to be able to go to college, because it was just so debilitating. And it wasn't even having to go to a tournament to play. It was a lot of things combined. I think it was a burnout. I think it was a triggering experience for me going to stay away when I was so young. And I don't know, I just didn't react well to that. And so anything related to staying away in field hockey did not mix well at all. And it was just to the point where I couldn't even go to tournaments without literally having to step off the field because I was having a panic attack. And it was just scary. And so I remember there's a pipeline for USA field hockey, and it's called Futures at the time. And it's a huge thing that a lot of girls do. And I remember telling him that I was I can't do this anymore. And he was all right, well, you don't have to do it. And he was saves me time and money. You do what you need. Realistically, he was you do what you need to do. But all jokes aside, he was just so supportive in that. And I focused on just club and my school, and I had the best time. I like re-found my
Yeah.
love for field hockey, and my coaches were just Penn State coach Char. Like everyone was just so on board with my decision and so supportive. And I think that's truly the reason I am where I am today. Because I don't think if they would have been supportive and I would have been forced to do these things and be put through these feelings at such a young age, I think I totally would have been like, fuck this, and I'm done. Like, I'm not dealing with it anymore. So, sorry for rambling, but that's
No,
kind
I
of
mean,
the background of it all.
I first of all appreciate you getting vulnerable with us, and I
Yeah.
think you're so real in how you talk about just who you are, and I think Sam and I both appreciate that so much. And a lot of people can learn from you. I mean, you're inspiring people because you're opening up about things that you struggled with. I
Yeah.
mean, Sam and I, it's hard. We talk about it because you know what?
Yeah.
It honestly helps sometimes too to talk about how we're feeling, especially in a
Absolutely.
public forum like a podcast. But what I find that's so interesting, Sam's got anxiety, I've got anxiety. We have different triggers for sure. And I always like to think about like the ways that I know it's going to come in certain times. What am I going to
Right.
do in that moment that's going to help me push through? For example, earlier today, we were doing a big podcast and I could feel my anxiety building up and building up. And it was getting to a point, not to a panic attack, but just building up. But then I closed my eyes and I was just like, breathing. Focus on breathing, focus on breathing, focus on breathing. It's not as big as you think you're making it seem. Just breathe. And so I'm curious for you, Phia, like as you feel anxiety coming and going, how are you approaching it from the sense of, yes, you have your people around you who are supporting you, but like sometimes we don't have those people around us. What are the things that you're doing?
Yeah, I love that you brought up like people aren't always around, and I think everyone with anxiety can relate that when you're feeling anxiety, like it is such an internalized thought, it's such an internalized feeling, and no matter how, whatever it is, they can't feel that. It's different for everyone and how it goes. So for me, feeling like that from such a young age, I've recognized, like you said, the patterns and like the triggers, and I got so familiar. I mean, I've been dealing with like 10, 11 years now, so I'm so familiar with what triggers it, what it's going to feel like, what's going to calm me down. And I started talking to a sports therapist or sports life coach during my Olympic cycle, which was so helpful because traveling for me, like, I think that's a huge trigger. It's something with traveling, like, it reminds me of like when I had to go to that camp, going there, staying away in an unfamiliar place, like taking a plane, like all these things were just so overwhelming. Like what, and my thought process was like, I really learned like what was I actually thinking? What was I actually getting anxiety about? And it was, I'm anxious that I'm going to get anxious in this uncomfortable place and I don't have the people. So it's this vicious cycle that sucks. It's not like, oh, I'm anxious the plane is gonna crash. You know what I mean? Like I'm anxious that this is gonna happen. It was never that. It was more so I'm anxious for this experience because I'm scared I'm gonna get anxious in that moment and feel trapped. So, and not have the people around me that, my home, my friends, so once I finally figured that out, and really understood my thought process, I think I was really able to speak to like almost my future self and and say things like, because in the earlier years I would always be like, what if this never goes away? What if I am stuck how I'm feeling right now? That feeling like, what if this never goes away? And I started taking notes in my notes app, and I would literally write and like just in the moment, like, Phia, you're having an anxiety attack right now because you're gonna go do this, and you like, oh, I just write like my thoughts. And then I'd say, like, come back. This is so ridiculous, but it worked. I'd write, come back and read this when you're okay. And then, like, a week would go by, and I'd go back and, like, read it, and I'd be like, holy shit, like, I was, like, not okay. And then I respond to him, like, you're good. Like, everything worked out. You're alive. Like, you got through it. And, like, it sounds silly, but I would go back and read these notes apps since I was, like, freshman in college. And I just have it all. I'm like, you did it. Like, you were able to do it. You got through it. So then it's, like, every time I have a new challenge of something that's going to cause anxiety, I go back and read that. I'm like, I literally moved down to Charlotte barely knowing anyone with this gamble alone, trained the hardest I've ever trained in my life, traveled to different countries multiple times, and here I am. I'm doing just fine. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy, but that's kind of
It's
how
like
I got
you're your own coach in a sense. Like
a little
you're
bit. You kind
taking
of have
notes
to
about how
be.
you're feeling. Yeah, you have to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Sam was going to ask a question, but like for me, sometimes I like to try to think about how I can turn my anxiety into either a learning experience or get me excited about something. A lot of times it's just I'm nervous and I need to get my anxiety, like excitement out.
Yeah.
But also, like I also feel like it's helped me get to where I am today in some weird way. Like I'm almost
Absolutely.
grateful for it in a sense because it's pushed me to be like it's pushed me to utilize my mental fortitude and overcome
Yeah.
something that's really challenging. But more so, it's like, I know I did that and I know I got over that. And so why can't I conquer something else? You know?
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Phil, when you were speaking about writing notes to yourself, it resonates with me because I have the same thing on my phone. I do the same exact thing where when I'm in a headspace, write down all the thoughts that I'm having, what I'm thinking. And there becomes this point, I think, with anxiety where you almost are able to like separate from your brain. I don't know if that concept makes sense to people, but it's like if you are able to, whether it's mindfulness, meditation, podcasting, therapy, you can almost like remove your own self from the thoughts that you're having and
Right.
observe it as a third party and be like, I am anxious right now. I am anxious because of this. You will be fine. Take a deep breath, right? Like, and it's like
Yeah.
you have to almost trick your own brain
Yeah.
to be like, no, the anxiety's not in control. Fia's in control. Shut up.
Right.
Like, I'm good. Like, I'm Gucci. We're chilling. And so it's like this
Yeah.
weird, like, you break the third wall. And so I love that concept of writing everything down. I think it's certainly something that helps myself. I'm so glad it helps you too. And I think for other young people out there that are maybe struggling with different techniques to observe their anxiety or some of the mental thoughts that they're having, write it down and see if you can almost remove yourself from the situation. I think you'd be surprised at how much better you can feel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And something that my life coach also taught me, like it's funny when you said it's almost like you have to talk to yourself and encourage yourself. Like, no, like I'm good. It's almost like you have the baby yourself, your own like thoughts. You're like, it's okay, like you're good. Like you can talk to like you're talking to a child. And also another thing that I loved that my life coach taught me was what are the truths and what are the facts, and then like what are you creating in your head. And so for example, like traveling to a different country for 2 weeks. Okay, the fact is I'm going to be taking an airplane to this country. I'm going to be here for 2 weeks. The fact is I am coming home. I'm not staying there forever. I'm not trapped there. I'm not going alone. I'm going with a team. Like, so just like, even if it's like silly small things, like list the facts and the truths of like what's actually happening. And then what are you like creating? Okay, this is a fact, but, and then, write down what you're coming up with in your head. And I think that was just so helpful for me to like, fact is, I'm not there forever. I will be okay. Like all these things, but it helps me so much. So, yeah.
I always come back to like it's just gonna work out. Like whether it's not now or
Yes.
it's just it's gonna work out. It has to, right? That's what we have
Yeah.
to believe. So let's talk a little bit about what you did this summer. You're wearing the USA across your chest. Like
Oh, yeah.
how? Like I'm sure that brought up some anxiety going to a new country, not only with people that you probably some people you've probably met, but others
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
But then also performing at like the highest stage that you could ever perform at. Let's talk about this. Let's uncover it.
Um, honestly, like I had a trip earlier before that in May. So that was nice, kind of getting like in the rhythm of traveling and all those things. And being able to play with the team before that, and like that was kind of like the final like tryout, selection process. But yeah, no, I mean, I really struggled before that trip. And so when I got through that trip, I was very much doing a lot of self-talk before the trip to Paris. Just saying things like, I just did this last month and I was perfectly fine. I got through it. I had a travel trip basically from hell. I lost my, like the worst thing that could have happened on the first trip, and I got through it. And again, it's like you say, like these horrible things happen, but they help you so much, because my luggage got lost. The person never gave me the scan code, so I didn't have that. Like all these horrible things. My luggage with like my medications, like my everything, my toiletries, all my clothes. Our flight got delayed. We missed the other one. We ended up traveling for over 24 hours. Like literally everything that my mind could have came up with, like it happened. And I get there and I'm like, well, I did it and I'm fine now. So I think that honestly helped me so much. And then the next trip to Paris, I was like, this is it. And this trip, my parents were coming, like my coaches were coming, so many people's families were coming. It was just like this whole community of support. So I was more so excited to get there. Like obviously the travel and all that, it was stressful, but I handled it so much better than the time before. And it was just like a light bulb moment of like, wow, like this is what I've been running away from my whole life. Like this is what I was, something as silly as this. But it's not silly. It's a very real like thing. And being there, it takes a day to kind of get settled. But, honestly, the least of my worries was playing on the biggest stage of the world. That is something I've been preparing for my whole life. And that's what I told you earlier. Like we really did a lot of mental prep of not making the game, bigger than it is. Like it is no doubt the coolest thing. You walk on that field and in a stadium of so many people from all over the world. And it's just so, it's surreal, humbling, and inspiring. And I think, yes, I was like, game nerves at that point, like, okay, I'm a little nervous, but it was like excitement and just like, holy shit moment. And I think I was most prepared for that. This is something that I've been working for since I was in third grade. So it's like, that was honestly something that I was ready to do. That was honestly the least scary thing, I would say. So, yeah.
Obviously, your mentality going from
Right.
the worst travel experience ever to changing it and being positive, I think is really important. I wish I could give this person credit, but I don't remember where I read this, so I'm just going to say it, and whoever's idea this was, I give you credit. I read something the other day that was like, people with anxiety, often their brains work going worst case scenario on situations they're uncomfortable with so that they can prepare on the 0.1% chance that worst case scenario happens, right? And so while you turned that into a positive, because the worst case scenario kind of came true when you lost all your luggage, so you were able to say, I've been through the worst and I was able to do it and I was fine. I personally have doing almost the opposite now, where the idea, this concept is, what if everything goes perfectly? What if it all goes right? Because oftentimes our brains go, okay, Parker, Sam, we're going to New York. We have this big event that we're doing today. You guys are going to be in person. And our brain goes, oh my God, what if I don't know what to say? What if I mess up? What if my flight gets canceled? What if I fall asleep? Like whatever. You go into all these crazy hypotheticals that are probably never going to happen. And then it's just such a bad snowball effect of anxiety that we almost manifest it. Whereas now, easier said than done, but I've been trying to work on it, is like, what if today went perfectly? What if it exceeded every expectation that I had and it absolutely rocked? And I think that little switch,
I love that, because I think it's like there is it's a balance. Like why are we
by just saying like, yeah, those things could happen.
Like why do
but
we?
it also
so
could
crazy how our minds
be amazing.
do that. And it sucks.
And so that's something that I've been kind of trying to instill in my own thought process.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. Flight.
Yeah. We're anxious people
because we're humans.
Fight or flight. Yeah.
True. We're humans. I mean, I think every human, I don't know if like I could say every human has anxiety.
True.
But anxiety is innate in who we are because it's gotten to us. That's got it. Like our ancestors. If you want to go all the way back, it like got to this point because of exactly. If they weren't anxious, they'd get eaten by a bear or something. Like, they wouldn't do certain things, and that's why I think humans today, like, obviously it's more elevated with the phone and social media, and we put all of ourselves on a pedestal in some sense because whatever. And so I just like appreciate your perspective, and because you're so real with it. Like, not everyone's an Olympian like field hockey player, but we're all sitting here, we're like, yeah, we're scared about traveling, losing our luggage, and we're talking like it's just awesome.
We're all humans. We all have many of the same issues. So, Phia, I want to ask you and move us into our rapid fire segment.
So in the village, we stayed in the village.
I say
so we
just,
had
but you
the
relatively
dining hall.
just got back from Paris.
Which
Paris is known for incredible food. So I want to ask you, first thing that comes to mind, what was the best thing you ate?
I think it was just it was so overwhelming. Like, it was probably the most overwhelming part of everything.
Okay.
The dining hall was ginormous.
You said that with such
there were so many like
sass in the voice. Was it not good food?
Rooms that you'd walk in, it was like French, world,
the dining hall,
like Asian, all like there. It was just so overwhelming, and like there was so much stuff, and it was like I don't even know where to go because I'd sit down and see my teammates play. I'm like, wait, that looks really good. Like, where did you even get that? You know? So it was so overwhelming. We got to leave.
Wow.
We got to go to Team USA house. I don't even remember the best like thing I had at the dining hall. The chocolate muffin. Everyone was like raving about that. I don't know if you saw that on TikTok, but it was like no, like seriously, look it up. And I had it the one day. It was amazing. But I can't like pick one. Like there was just so much food. We'll make that the final answer.
No, that's hilarious.
Right.
We'll go with the chocolate muffin then. I think that's a good answer.
Right.
So, the Olympics is obviously incredible because you got the best people in the world at what they're doing in one place, but also you have people from all over the world. So many different cultures, so many different backgrounds, ways of looking at life.
The village is so
Is there this isn't even rapid fire. Is there one story or one interaction with someone from another country that is just so memorable to you?
Met per se. But I think, again, when you're going to the dining hall or near that, everyone's there. There's one big dining hall. So it's, I think the biggest, whoa moment was, first off, just how much of a privilege it is to, represent your country, but also seeing these other third world countries that just aren't even close to being at the same level economically as, the United States or France, and, what a few of those countries were Kenya and Zimbabwe and just what they were wearing and their shoes, and then I'm looking at myself with my fucking Ralph Lauren on. I'm I'm so privileged to be able to wear this right now versus some of these countries that are provided nothing, one shirt that says their country on it. So I was just that was just a very eye-opening moment for me to realize the privilege that not only I have but our country in general, and just I just felt very fortunate, but also just, not upset, but I'm damn, these people are here for the same reason I am. Why aren't they getting, the same level? They deserve that. And so that was just something that I was kind of my, whoa moment, I guess you could say. But I think it was just cool seeing everyone from all over the world. It was crazy. It was so cool. Yeah. Yeah, so cool. You're good.
I can't imagine. I mean, it was cool watching on TV, I'll tell you that. I can't imagine feeling that energy, in one place.
All right, our last rapid fire. I'll let this one be quicker.
I
you play in incredible
I mix it up.
venues and places and
genre.
huge games.
Parker
and I are big
rap
music guys.
Before, or
rap
Do you
have
or
a pump-up
EDM,
song that is your go-to
definitely
before
will
every
listen
game?
to
Megan
Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B before games because I just love them. I don't have they're always coming out with music, so whatever's good that month, I love them. Those are my pre-game songs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had there is definitely during the Olympics.
What was
Team
USA's song?
And just
there's gotta
blare
be a
that
song
in the locker
that people
room.
were always listening to or bumping. There's gotta
It
be, right?
does. It's better than Party in the USA. That's what every other country thinks you want to listen to. That, so.
Cliche, but amazing.
Oh
It gets you going. Everyone's getting that vibe.
We had
it's great.
a playlist that someone would play. So, all the trendy rap songs.
Yeah, there's this guy
EDM
named Bruce
songs,
Springsteen who
those
actually is an
kinds of things,
icon
but
before
I know,
Miley
we don't have,
Cyrus. Just
one
putting it out there,
specific,
everyone.
Play that right now. So, sorry for boring answer I meant, but okay, good.
Fair enough. No, I think it was a good answer. All right, Phia, comes to the last question of the podcast. Sam and I have welcomed over 185 people to Elevation Nation, and every single person has one thing in common. Not that they're just amazing people, but they have something called a mental motto. It's a phrase, a quote, a slogan that they live their life by. So we're very curious. What's your mental motto?
Lived by that because just from my experience the last few months, like in my, when I took a break from field hockey and some USA things, I just thought like, oh, am I ever going to really be able to like do that, just all these things. And I'm looking back now and I'm like, literally, like, it's so spot on. Everything that was meant to be will be, and it was. And every decision, every route that I took in my life led me to where I am, and I couldn't be happier. So yeah, that's something I live by. And I think it's also just like, again, not thinking so in the future, like whatever decision you make, whatever path you choose to go down, like that's what you're meant to do. And like whatever happens from that is what's meant to happen. We can't control everything. So that's really helped me a lot. Yeah.
It's a beautiful mental motto, and it's certainly worked out for you thus far. And Parker and I, Phia, are so honored and excited to officially and finally welcome you to Elevation Nation. We're so glad to have you in this incredible community, and thank you for all that you've done and all that you will continue to do, obviously in the sport of field hockey, but even more importantly, just to help people think through mental health and being a role model for so many young people out there.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
On behalf of Elevation Nation, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Just keep elevating, Phia. You're inspiring, and I know you're going to continue to inspire so many people. Thanks for joining us.
Great.